I told you, I don't remember. Stop asking me. Jack's voice cracked, frustration boiling over. He stared at the trembling cup of coffee on the table, the liquid rippling as though in sync with his heartbeat. Jack, you've been gone for 6 months. Sarah's voice was softer, cautious. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. 6 months without a word. No calls. No clues. Then you just appear. You don't think I deserve answers? Jack lowered his gaze, his hands clenched into fists. The dull ache in his head flared again, as it had so often in the past week. Flashes of light, whispers of something, voices, maybe, that he couldn't make sense of. It felt like trying to catch smoke with his bare hands. I can't, he whispered. I don't remember where I was, who I was with. Nothing. It's just blank. Sarah sighed heavily, leaning back in her chair. The weariness in her eyes stabbed at Jack's heart. You're saying you just woke up, miles away from home, with no idea how you got there? Not a single detail, she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Jack opened his mouth to reply, but the words died in his throat. How could he explain the bizarre feelings? The strange things happening around him, like the coffee cup, the way it trembled when he got upset, the light bulb in his apartment that flickered when he was agitated, or the way he swore he could hear people's thoughts, faint and fragmented, like a distant radio station tuning in and out. I know it sounds crazy, he said finally, but it's the truth. Sarah stared at him for a long moment, then stood up. I want to believe you, Jack. I really do. But something's not right here. You're not the same. Her words lingered in the air as she grabbed her coat and walked out of the cafe, leaving Jack alone with his thoughts. That night, the dreams came again. Dreams of shadowy figures with elongated limbs and eyes that glowed like molten silver. They stood over him, their movements fluid and alien, speaking in a language he couldn't understand. Yet, somehow, he felt their meaning. Subject 487, adaptation successful. Synchronization at 72%. Jack jolted awake, gasping for air. Sweat drenched his shirt, and his hands trembled as he reached for the glass of water on his nightstand. As he lifted it, the glass shattered in his hand, not from his grip, but as if it had exploded outward. Tiny shards scattered across the floor. What the hell is happening to me? He whispered, cradling his throbbing hand. 2 days later, Jack found himself drawn to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. He couldn't explain why, but something pulled at him, a magnetic force he couldn't ignore. As he stepped inside, the air crackled with energy, and the faint hum he'd been hearing in his head for days grew louder. You've come, a voice said, smooth and resonant. Jack spun around, his heart hammering. In the dim light, he saw them, 2 figures standing impossibly still. Their skin shimmered faintly, hues of blue and silver shifting like water under moonlight. Their eyes, those eyes, just like in his dreams. Who are you? Jack demanded, his voice shaking. What do you want from me? The taller of the 2 stepped forward, tilting its head slightly. You don't remember us, do you? It said, its tone carrying a strange mix of curiosity and sadness. You were chosen, Jack. Chosen? For what? Jack's fists clenched at his sides. For the reversal, the second alien said, its voice softer, almost melodic. A chance to bridge worlds, to carry our essence and reshape what has been broken. Jack shook his head, backing away. You've got the wrong guy. I'm nobody. The first alien's eyes seemed to brighten, its gaze piercing. You are far more than that now. Your transformation has already begun. Before Jack could respond, a sharp pain shot through his skull, and the world tilted. Images flooded his mind, fragmented and chaotic. A ship hovering in endless darkness, needles piercing his skin, a surge of power coursing through his veins. And then, voices. Hundreds of voices, all speaking at once. Stop. Make it stop, he screamed, clutching his head. But the flood of memories didn't relent. When Jack came to, he was lying on the cold warehouse floor. The aliens stood over him, their expressions unreadable. What did you do to me? He croaked. We awakened what was dormant, the second alien said. Your abilities will grow, but so will the burden. You must learn to control it. Jack sat up slowly, his body trembling. I didn't ask for this. I just want my life back. Your life, the first alien said, is no longer just your own. The reversal is in motion. What you do next will determine the fate of many. As the days turned into weeks, Jack began to understand what they meant. The abilities he'd been gifted or cursed with were unlike anything he'd ever imagined. He could manipulate energy, hear thoughts, even bend objects to his will. But with each use, he felt a growing connection to something larger, a network of minds stretching across the cosmos. The aliens visited him sporadically, offering cryptic guidance but little comfort. They spoke of a rift between their world and his, of a catastrophic event that only he could prevent. But they never explained how. Meanwhile, Jack's world unraveled. Sarah stopped returning his calls. His friends looked at him like he was a stranger. And the government, or something worse, seemed to be watching him. Black SUVs idled outside his apartment. Unmarked helicopters hovered overhead. Jack knew he couldn't run forever. The reversal was coming, and with it, a choice that would shape the destiny of two worlds. But as he stood on the precipice of an unknown future, one question burned brighter than all the rest. Who had he become? One night, Jack's insomnia drove him to wander. He found himself back at the warehouse, where his journey had truly begun. This time, the air felt different. He could sense it before he stepped inside. The hum was louder, more insistent. Inside, the two aliens were waiting, but they weren't alone. A third figure stood between them, smaller and less imposing. It looked human, a young woman, her features delicate but her eyes glowing faintly silver, just like theirs. Jack, she said, her voice familiar yet alien. We've been waiting. Who are you? Jack asked, his pulse quickening. Amira, she said. Like you, I was chosen, but I've been through the reversal. I'm here to help you prepare. Jack frowned. Prepare for what? You keep talking in riddles. Just tell me what's happening. The taller alien stepped forward. The rift between our worlds is unstable. It threatens to consume both. The reversal was our solution, to merge our strengths with yours, to create beings who can navigate both realms. Jack shook his head. You're saying I'm some kind of hybrid? You are more, Mira said, stepping closer. You're the key to saving both worlds. But only if you embrace what you've become. Jack stared at her, his mind racing. The memories they had unlocked, the powers he couldn't control. It was all too much. Yet, deep down, he felt the truth of their words. Something inside him was changing, awakening. And if I don't? He asked quietly. The second alien's voice was a whisper, almost mournful. Then both worlds will fall. Over the next few weeks, Mira trained Jack to harness his abilities. She taught him to focus, to quiet the noise in his mind, and to channel his energy with precision. She shared her own story, how she'd been taken years ago, how she'd fought the transformation before finally accepting it. You're stronger than you think, she told him one night as they stood on the warehouse roof, gazing at the stars. But strength isn't enough. You have to trust yourself. Jack's progress was slow but steady. He learned to control the energy that flowed through him, to shield his mind from the constant barrage of thoughts. But the closer he came to mastering his abilities, the more the rift's pull intensified. He could feel it now, a tear in the fabric of reality, growing wider with each passing day. One night, as Jack meditated, he felt a sudden jolt of pain. Images flooded his mind. A massive explosion, cities consumed by fire, and a darkness spreading across the sky. He gasped, clutching his chest. Mira rushed to his side. What did you see? She asked urgently. The rift, Jack said, his voice trembling. It's getting worse. We're running out of time. As the rift's presence loomed larger, Jack knew the final confrontation was near. The aliens revealed their plan. To seal the rift, Jack would have to enter it, using his abilities to stabilize the connection between their world and his. But the process was dangerous, and there was no guarantee he'd survive. I'm supposed to just trust you? Jack asked, his voice laced with doubt. Trust yourself, Mira said, her hand on his shoulder. You've already come this far. You can do this. As Jack stood before the rift, its swirling energy pulling at him, he took a deep breath. The aliens' voices echoed in his mind, urging him forward. Myra's gaze held his, steady and unwavering. This is it, Jack thought. The moment everything changes. With one final step, he plunged into the rift, his body consumed by light. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a voice, his own, whispered in the void. I remember now. And the reversal began.